Covering the summit is our correspondent, Dave Keating. He joins me on the programme now. Dave, the timing of this sit-down is interesting, isn't it? Because it comes in the wake of revelations about Russian spying in the North Sea, and even reports that Russia might be planning to sabotage European energy infrastructure. Presumably that's a key talking point for these European leaders today.
Yeah, I mean, the leaders of these 9 North Sea area countries are arriving just now as we speak, and there's many things on the agenda here at the summit. Obviously, countries that share a sea have a lot that they cooperate on, but that topic that you mentioned about Russian sabotage and espionage in the North Sea is really looming over this summit. After all, there's just been recent revelations that Russian ships disguised as fishing boats or scientific exploration vessels were exploring just off the coast of where I'm standing right now, in the waters visible to the shore, looking at Belgium's wind turbine infrastructure. Belgium, basically the entire coast, is now full of wind turbines about 40 kilometers off the coast. That's why Belgium decided to host this summit here, because Belgium has really been a leader in wind power, but also it's very concerned about the safety of those wind turbine installations. So last week there was this broadcast by the Nordic broadcasters which traced some of these Russian vessels, found them hanging around wind farms around the North Sea, also looking at the cables that connect those wind farms for electricity, and also gas pipelines. I think the big question here is, what can Western European countries do about this? Because, of course, they don't have great relations to speak of with Russia in order to launch an objection. They're not at war with Russia, but the concern is that Russia is carrying on espionage so that it could quickly attack these assets if war does break out between Russia and NATO, plunging Western Europe into a panic if it loses power. So some of the things I've heard they're going to talk about today is not only beefing up the resilience of that undersea infrastructure, particularly those electric cables, but also having plans to move the military to those spots very quickly if war were to break out, and maybe possibly already move some military assets to around that critical infrastructure to make sure that it's safe.
The leaders are looking at pretty seriously in the wake of those revelations last week, Dave. But in terms of wind energy, of renewables, that is also clearly a big focus of this summit. Just tell us what might be agreed in the days ahead.
Well, we're expecting a pretty big announcement on the goal for wind power in the North Sea. So this is the second such summit. The previous first edition of the North Sea Summit was only those EU countries that have North Sea coastline. So Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, and Germany. It's now been expanded to 5 others: Ireland, UK, Norway, France, and Luxembourg, who are either EU, but not on the North Sea, or non-EU and on the North Sea. They want to double the commitment that the 4 countries made last year. So last year they said they wanted to quadruple the amount of wind power capacity in the North Sea, up to 150 gigawatts by 2050. Today we're expecting an announcement that these 9 countries combined would get that to 300 gigawatts by 2050. That is an octupling of the current capacity of the North Sea and would make it the biggest renewable energy generation area in Europe, possibly the world. So some big news on the government front, but we're also getting some smaller project announcements. We're expecting an announcement for an electricity cable between the UK and the Netherlands that would actually become the biggest electricity interconnector in the world once completed. We're expecting that announcement in a couple hours. We're also expecting maybe a few surprises. They really want to dazzle us with the announcements here on wind energy and show that this part of northwestern Europe is really serious about increasing wind power for many reasons. Climate, of course, one of them, but also to make sure that Europe has better energy security and is no longer dependent on an external source for fossil fuels like Russia.
Dave Keating, thank you very much.